The following is part of a college course based on the textbook Anthropology, the Human Challenge, written by Haviland, Prinz, Walrath, and McBride, and published by Wadsworth, a part of Cengage Learning. The primates, our closest relatives. What is it that we have in common with a lemur or a baboon? All living primates, including humans, are just the tips of the branches of an evolutionary tree that broke away from the other mammals 65 million years ago. What is it that we all have in common? And who are the other members of our family tree? With over 230 living species, the primate order is a diverse group, yet we all have a lot in common. Primates, including humans, share a grasping hand and foot with nails instead of claws, eyes that sit on the front of the face with overlapping visual fields, an increased dependence on vision, a generalized dentition, a larger brain for their body size, and young who mature slowly. Earlier species show only the beginnings of some of these characteristics, while the later evolving apes and humans demonstrate all of them. These characteristics developed in response to environmental pressures that shaped the order during its evolutionary history. One pressure was the tropical or subtropical climates in which primates evolved. Even today, with very few exceptions, primates live where the climate is warm year-round. Primate evolution also took place in arboreal habitats. Life in the trees shaped the form and behavior of all the primates.
Well, the arboreal environment is a very complex environment. Branches that animals would have to negotiate are discontinuous, they're round, they can be very smooth, they can be very flexible, and it's just a difficult place for animals to move through. This would have created a situation where natural selection would have favored characteristics that enable an animal to do that with efficiency.
Hands and feet equipped with nails rather than claws helped primates to grasp the branches, giving them access to all parts of the forest canopy. Eyes that face forward with overlap in the visual field enabled stereoscopic vision, which was useful to the early primates in their arboreal habitat.
Stereoscopic vision enables a mammal to see in 3D, to be able to judge distances very well. In an arboreal environment, particularly where gaps need to be crossed, stereoscopy would be very, very useful.
The importance of vision as the dominant sense is reflected in the location of the eyes in the front of the skull and a bony structure to protect them. Visual areas of the brain are also larger in primates. With a grasping hand and foot and sensitive tactile pads on their fingertips and toes, primates developed complex hand-eye coordination and came to use the hand as an exploratory device. The primate hand brings things to the mouth, nose, and eyes for closer investigation. Along with increased reliance on vision came the decreased importance of smell. As the eyes rotated to the front of the face, the muzzle shortened, and the teeth came to lie under the brain case. Those parts of the brain that process smell information became reduced in size, and brain size and complexity increased. All of these features are most fully developed in the later evolved monkeys and apes.
In front of me I have the skull of a raccoon and the skull of a vervet monkey, and there are several important anatomical differences between them. The first and most obvious is the shape of the orbits. This vervet monkey has orbits, eye sockets that are completely enclosed by bone. On this raccoon, it is not. The orbit is open. This vervet monkey has a much larger brain, even though it's about the same size as this raccoon.
Primates have relatively few offspring in a lifetime and invest heavily in parental care. Combined with the primate tendency to live in a social group, this favors a reliance on learned behavior rather than instinct. Young primates have ample time and opportunity to learn from the experience of others in the group, which results in greater behavioral variability and complexity. The morphology, or physical characteristics of each primate species living today, holds clues to their evolutionary history. For example, the 5 fingers and toes on a gorilla indicate their vertebrate ancestry. Their hair tells us they are mammals. They retain a grasping hand, a trait that evolved early in the primate radiation, along with an opposable thumb, which certain primates share. And their lack of a tail is characteristic of all apes and humans. It must have emerged sometime after their line separated from the other primates. The behavior and morphology of each living primate species today also reflects the adaptive niche they occupy, where they spend their time, what they eat, and what they need from their environment. The adaptive niche is the result of specific environmental pressures, and so a species may behave differently in different habitats. These Zanzibar red colobus monkeys living on the island of Zanzibar off the coast of Tanzania in Africa feed on the ground, something never seen in species of red colobus on the mainland. This is likely due to the absence of ground predators on the island, in addition to differences in available food. The approximately 230 species of primates living today are all that remain of the many primate species that have existed over the past 65 million years. Through understanding their morphology and behavior, we gain insight into the primate ground plan that we all share. The primates are divided into 2 large categories: prosimians, which include lemurs, lorises, and tarsiers, and anthropoids, which include monkeys, apes, and humans. Modern prosimians are the closest living examples we have of the features of the earliest primates. The prosimian radiation occurred between 33 and 55 million years ago, and a wide variety of prosimian forms emerged at that time. Modern prosimians depend more on smell than do monkeys and apes, which is evident in their moist nose and long muzzle, containing a honeycomb of bone that helps to guide odors to the brain. Their eyes tend to be more off to the side, with less developed stereoscopic vision. They reproduce more rapidly than do anthropoids. In a number of species, young can mature to adulthood in only 20 months. Many have 1 or more claws that they use for extracting food or grooming, as they lack the ability to oppose their thumbs and fingers in a precision grip. Some also use their front teeth to groom themselves and others.
One feature that many prosimians share is the presence of a dental comb. The incisors on the lower jaw are pointing outward, almost horizontal to the jaw.
Prosimians tend to have long legs and short arms, a morphology evolved for a form of locomotion called vertical clinging and leaping.
A vertical clinger and leaper basically sits straight upright on a tree trunk and clings to the tree trunk and pushes off with the hind legs to another tree trunk. It's basically an adaptation for life in a forest at a level in the canopy where there isn't any canopy. You're not running from branch to branch, you're jumping from trunk to trunk to trunk.
Prosimian limb proportions give animals a hunched look on the ground, and in the most extreme cases, a comical one. Prosimians can be divided into 3 groups: lemurs, lorises, and tarsiers. Lemurs are found only on the island of Madagascar, off the east coast of Africa. Isolated here with no primate competitors, lemurs diversified into many different species. The majority of species are diurnal, or active during the day, while some, like this mouse lemur, are nocturnal, or active at night.
This is a very small nocturnal prosimian. One of the smallest is called a mouse lemur, and it also has very large eyes compared to the rest of its body size. The ringtail lemur is mostly diurnal. It mostly is active during the daytime, so its eyes are not quite as large in proportion to the rest of the skull. If you compare it to this nocturnal prosimian, you can see that the eyes are almost the same size, even though the nocturnal prosimian is considerably smaller.
Many lemurs communicate extensively through smell. This male ring-tailed lemur is marking the tree by rubbing scent onto the bark from glands on his wrist, which can be seen in this seated posture. Scent is used in territorial skirmishes as well as in competition among males during the short breeding season, a form of identification. Like some other lemurs, female ring-tailed lemurs can dominate males and are very prominent in confrontations between groups. Females reach sexual maturity at 2.5 years and give birth annually. The second group of prosimians, the lorises, live in Africa and Asia. Unlike the island sanctuary of Madagascar, in these continental areas, they have competition from many diurnal monkeys and apes, and so all loris species today are nocturnal creatures. This Garnet's greater bush baby has huge eyes with pupils that open into circles at night, allowing them to forage on fruit, seeds, insects, and flowers. Bush babies spend their days in tree holes or vine nests, where they leave their infants while they forage alone at night. They use their large, movable ears to locate insect prey and are able to leap 36 feet, a prodigious jump for a primate whose body is 10 inches long. Tarsiers, the tiny primates of Southeast Asia, are named for their elongated tarsal or ankle bone, which enables these 3 to 6 inch tall primates to jump distances of 9 feet. Tarsiers share some characteristics with both prosimians and anthropoids.
Well, tarsiers aren't really anthropoids, but they're closely related to anthropoids. And among the most important characteristics that tarsiers and anthropoids share is the absence of a wet-nosed face, a wet-nosed snout.
The living prosimians are a highly diverse suborder of primates. We see the full range of primate social systems and primate dietary adaptations within this group. Lemurs and lorises living today are not our ancestors, although they may bear some resemblance to them. They are our contemporaries. Prosimians have been on a separate evolutionary branch beginning 55 million years ago. Since then, they have evolved into the many different species of prosimians we see today, as well as the many extinct species no longer with us. Anthropoids include monkeys, apes, and humans. They tend to be larger than prosimians. They also have larger brains relative to body size than do prosimians. They depend on sight more than smell, with a bony eye socket and color vision. Their nose is not moist and is separated from the mouth by an upper lip. Anthropoids are slower to mature, with a longer period of dependency on the mother and social group. And as a result, their behavior is shaped by learning to a much greater extent. 85% of all living primates are monkeys. Monkeys can be found on 4 continents, occupying all types of